Productive Dentist Academy podcast network.
Welcome to the Everyday Practices Dental Podcast. I'm Regan Robertson, and my co-host, Dr. Chad Johnson, Dr. Maggie Augustin, and I are on a mission to share the stories of everyday dentists who generate extraordinary results using practical, proven methods you can take into your own dental practice. If you are ready to reclaim your time so you can focus on great patient care without sacrificing yourself along the way, buckle up and listen in.
As dentists do a great job at customer service, taking care of the people who are already in your office, but not on lead management. And so for when a stranger that calls and you don't know their name or hardly their phone number, and trying to get them into the system of how do we follow up with these people until they become leads or say, leave me alone.
Doctor, have you ever sat with other doctors or peers and just had a beep session with each other about marketing? If so, you're not alone. And my wonderfully talented and faithful co-host Chad Johnson and I were just sitting here ruminating around marketing. But really we were talking about an upcoming podcast that's going to happen with the talented Sarah Hansen, who is a very gifted marketing consultant. And I said to Chad, hey, this sounds like a really good episode right now that we should capture. So here we are. Hi, Chad.
Hey. Glad to talk this stuff over. I'm doing great. It's a Friday that we're recording on, and all is well. It's just for context for the listeners in the future or whatnot. For the context, we're wrapped up with the school year, or wrapping up with the school year with kids, and so it's a busy time of year. Nonetheless, it's always good to chat with you and to bring some content for the listeners.
Absolutely. How all businesses, the idea is not to be a roller coaster, but sometimes it feels like a roller coaster. Sometimes you have really good months, everything's producing great, and then sometimes you're like, where did everything go? Why is everything off the rails? And I think it's just a normal plight of the business owner, or an honor of the business owner, like something for someone to master. You're shaking your head, but I think it's like a yes and.
Yeah, correct. Because I think about this as riding a wave. Like, if you're surfing, you have to like, it can be easy, but or whatever, or hard, but you do have to actively kind of like at least balance. Like, there's at least a minimum balance that you have to do in order to stay on top. And you don't have to stay on top. You can fall in the water. Like, that's always an option. But in order to ride the wave, it can be turbulent, it can be smooth, but you have to like at least have balance.
So what I love about what you just said there is it's dependent on many factors, not just one. So
Right.
the quality of the surfboard, the how strong your core strength is definitely going to impact the weather, will impact where you're at, geographically will matter. Like all of these different sort of pieces go into it. And when we talk about marketing, I think the same is to be said, and it's easy to get blinders on. So, Chad, you were just talking about what happens when, you're spending money on marketing. You think it's working, but you're not really sure it's working, but you're not seeing the result on the other side, what your process was. I'm wondering if you could walk us through what your process was and like
Yep.
figuring out and then showing us like where your assumptions were, because I know since I lead the promotions team at Productive Dentist Academy, I will have blind spots and go into assumptions also.
Sure. Yeah. So I think this is a quintessential problem that dentists have. Why do I think that? Because I see people commenting on this on Facebook forums and stuff like that. So the economy has been turbulent, let's just say on and off since COVID, really. I mean, the last 5 years you've wondered at times if it's like, if we're on track, and then there's other times it's like, are we off track and whatnot? And, um, and politics plays into that, but regardless of whichever side or down the middle you are with that, it's regardless, because there have been moments over the last few years where it's like, is this going the right way? Is this not? So there are political implications and sides to be had. Nonetheless, it's still volatile. And I was um, uh, last year noticing that our call volume, the call volume and the new patient leads that those were down. So we started digging into it, and Kate from PDA Marketing was helping us, dive into that more. And we are trying to figure out what in the world is going on because, I used to have, let's just easy math. I had 30 new patients a month, and it was tracking off, and we were trying to increase it with an associate on board. And um and at first, I'll just use the easy words. I was mad. I was upset that it's just like, guys, I love you. You love me. Like, why aren't we making this work, marketing team? Like, what the heck? Like, what are we screwing around? Like, are we taking our eyes off the wheel? What's the deal? Because I don't know, right? I'm going to my room and drilling. I'm going to to my dental stuff, but I don't know the back room stuff that's going on with the marketing. I mean, I can get updates, but at the same time, I don't know. Just as much as a parent sitting out in the waiting room, they're like, I'm at the dental office, but I don't know what's going on in the room with my kid, like
Right.
unless I go to that room. So, um, so then we started, like Kate started sharing with us the spreadsheet that has all the leads. Well, that made me upset, not at her, at us, because I was just like, well, crud. I mean, so are we not answering the phone enough? So this starts diving into, Regan, the thought of, are we getting are we actually getting the phone calls, or are we just not answering? If we're answering, are we not converting? And if we're converting, why? And really tracking our lost ROI, not just our ROI because that's what we do with it, but like, where's the potential that we're losing out? And so I start looking at this spreadsheet that has, 50 calls a day, and I'm like, wait a second. If we're getting, like 50 calls a day and half of them are, so let's just say 25 of these are leads per day, but we're only working 16 days a month. So, 25 times 16, blah, 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 whatever the number is. And that's not 30 new patients in a month. But I know we can't bat 1,000, right? Like, so we can't convert 100% of them. So we've done a lot, and I hate for this to be a diatribe that you want to dive in, but like, one of the last things that we've done is we started with our IT company. We set up if you're a new patient calling, press 1. If you're this and that. So we used to have it where you answer the phone, which is the
Yep.
nicest, most personable thing,
Yes.
which being a fee for service office, I like. But one of the problems, boots on the ground for us, was we got a lot of calls for, "Hey, do you guys take Medicaid?" "Oh, you don't? Do you know anyone who does?" And I feel, for those people, and they're trying to get answers, but the Medicaid website should have information as far as the doctors who are participating, so that way they can find this out. But they would do it in a very covert way. They would say, "Hey, I was hoping to make I'm a new patient to the area. I was hoping to make an appointment." "Okay, yeah, sure. And what's your name?" And this and that. And okay, what's your address? And we'd get all the information, and they'd go, "Yeah, great. Do you guys have any Wednesday times?" "Yeah, sure. We got next Wednesday at 9 a.m." "Great. Sounds good." Okay. And then, regarding insurance stuff, I have state funding. Thanks, bye. And, it'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like it would just kind of be,
No.
yes, we would get those. And so we had a thing that would say, if you're a new patient, press 1, and then they'd press new patient. And then it would say, um, if you're looking for information as far as Medicaid, please press 1. And so they would press 1, and it would say, we're not a Medicaid office. And then it would say, please visit the Medicaid website. And then also, we've heard of these couple offices that are available. And so we cut down on the unimportant calls to us because, we're trying to, service the people who are interested in the I don't know what the word would be, the good leads,
So
right?
you're being very helpful at the same time though too. You figured out how to scale a response is what I would say, so that you're not having to do it by hand, manually every time and
Because I
wasting
think
all
we
of
were
that
getting
time.
5 or
It's not
6 of those
serving
an
the
hour.
the Medicaid patient either because they're still
No.
great patients, but they need to be where they can be served.
Correct.
Yeah.
It needs to be efficient. I
Yeah.
think we were getting 5 or 6 of those an hour.
What?
Yeah,
Well, so that digs into a bigger problem, which is probably not enough Medicaid offices, but that's another episode for another day.
correct.
I love where you're going with how carefully you started diving into
Oh,
marketing, and
we
I
did.
also really like how you included that interaction as far as a marketing function. That was really
Yep,
that's
we're just looking at the
exciting.
funnel from beginning to end,
Y
and
Okay.
uh, Kate had a difficult time, a frustrating time with us in the best of way, trying to figure out, like, how can they help us solve our end of the problem? I mean,
Yes.
because to some degree, it falls back on us,
Mhm.
but she did, and it was I mean, I'm really grateful for that because, um, we we were able to, do a weekly check-in and just on a Google Sheet, and I've got it on
Yeah.
my Google Calendar, as you know I would, to
Of
weekly
course you
just
do.
check in right, and to, assign, on specific people, "Hey, have we been following up with these people? How many times did we follow up on phone, on, email, via text, and whatnot?" And, some of these people, I would even pick up my own phone, and not everyone loves doing this because you can get different apps or whatever. I would send them a text and saying, "Hey, this is Dr. Chad from Veranda Dentistry. I was, um, I was auditing my phone log and I saw that you called. I wanted to make sure that you were well taken care of." And it's amazing how many appointments you can
Did
pull
you
down.
did you make appointments from that?
I would say, "Okay, so I'm gonna send this to my, admin team, and
Mhm.
they're gonna follow up with you. We should be able to get you in this next week." And I would send appointments on, like on Thursdays, Thursdays or Fridays, I would check in, and by Monday, like they would post like we have a way to remote in and look at our schedule, and they would say, "Here's our emergency times," and I'd write back and I'd say, "Hey, they've already got back with me. It looks like 9 a.m. or it looks like 1 p.m. or whatever
Yeah.
is best. Would that work for you?" And they'd write and say this and that, and then I would, so I would kind of, liaison that. Now, if your schedule is busy enough that you don't have to do that, then cool, but mine wasn't, and I really wanted to, leave no stone left unturned, and so we dug into that. In fact, lately we've been doing a Yomi promotion where we're gonna have an open house in a couple weeks. And so I
Oh,
went
that's
back in.
very cool.
Yeah, I went back into all the spreadsheet and I said, "Hey, for the last 3 months, if they've called the Yomi phone line, we need to do a fourth follow-up with them," and stuff like that. So um I don't know. We basically, as I was explaining before we started taking the or doing the podcast, was we started figuring out, okay, stoicism applied. What can we control?
Yep.
And what's out of our control, then we can ask for a request for help with that. But at the same time, we're getting a lot of phone calls, and that took a lot of introspection. Because granted, listen, I have humans working for me, and I don't want them working past dinner time. I want them going
Right.
home and being with their family. I like that. There's the Scrooge McDuck side of me that says, like, let's work, until midnight and let's always take phone calls. I get that side of you dentists, us dentists, but at the same time, we want to be home with family. We want our team to be happy and well-rounded and with their family and their own personal time. And so exploring into options even on having AI slash robotic algorithmic phone answering. And I'll say that we tried that for a couple months and I love the idea of it. It's not there for me yet. I think it would depend on where you're
Is this AI phone answering, you mean?
correct.
Oh, I'm so glad you I can't stand that.
And it wasn't just the phone answering, it was like a text version where if we didn't pick up but it was 24/7, so I like that at 2 a.m. if someone calls us, that it will text but, like, I conceptually like it, it's just not there yet, and
Yeah.
that goes back to the AI problem that I don't understand is that not all AI is the same AI, and sometimes I'm just like, "This just seems like it's just an algorithm, like, why are we calling this program AI. It's not learning because if it was learning, I'd say, no, 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 stop doing that starting tomorrow. Like this is wrong. You can't drop an appointment at Saturday at 9
Right.
p.m. It's just like, that's not going to work for us. Even though like it makes sense, to the computer. It's like, no, you'll see them at 9 p.m.
That's
on
a unique
Saturday.
marketing campaign for single dentists right there.
Right?
Stop
Yeah.
open Saturdays at 9.
Yeah, and you know what? For the right price, I'm down, but you gotta give me some lead time. So, okay, so that was my long diatribe. Basically, we took ownership of our marketing, and that's made a huge difference. And I'm excited even in trying our new software with that called Trackable, that is checking out the data. It's taking all the leads, and I was explaining to you before hitting record as well, that we, as dentists, do a great job at customer service, taking care of the people who are already in your office, but not on lead management. And so for when a stranger that calls and you don't know their name or hardly their phone number, and trying to get them into the system of how do we follow up with these people until they become leads or say, leave me alone.
The whole time you were talking, what kept going around in my brain is, you get out what you put into it. And it's very tempting, especially for business owners that are also clinicians. It's not your job. Like, that's the first thing I think of is it's not your job. Like, I've got other things, more important things to do. And really what we're saying is can I go back to where I'm really passionate and why can this not just function the way it is? Unfortunately, and I think we've fallen prey to it too at times. You It gets more enticing to just do more or to do different than to turn around and work on your core. Think about, like, working out the wrong set of muscles. So, in my own physical health journey, I had hired a personal trainer and she was phenomenal, but it was the actual, immune issues going on and my diet going on and I even worked with a dietitian. So let's go that route. So even those two things were not the right things to do. So just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
That's right.
And you have to really be a detective of sorts and you have to do a diagnostic on it. So listeners, if you haven't recently done an audit on your marketing, and I'm going to explain what that means. It's time to do that. So first of all, if thought I've never really looked at my marketing and all the intersections, that's probably the flag that you need to know because there are things that you might miss that could be, in in Chad's case, it could be costing you, I mean, what, thousands in patient care, that may be missed, and it's not that your team is malicious, it's not that your marketing team is being lazy, but you do have to take some ownership and go through that process, and so what I do is I like, Chad, how you were saying that, you went and started looking at each little touch point and intersection, so data is the best part. So it sounds to me like, what started your journey was the data piece of it. Like the numbers were not adding up to you. It wasn't making sense at the end. So I
Let's
take
put money to that. I was spending $8,000 on marketing, and I was like, I mean, is that earning me the patients that I would think $8,000 should bring me?
right.
And so when you talk about touch
Yeah.
care, I just want to make sure everyone's understanding.
Yeah.
You're saying from the moment you have reached out to the patient, like on whether it be SEO slash Google ads slash, billboard, whatever, phone in the phone book, phone number in the phone book, then the patient calls, then the patient doesn't get an answer
Yes.
on our end, but they are persistent, this particular one, and they call back next week and then they get through. But the person said, "Oh, I don't know," but then they're persistent and they try one more time the next day and they get the right person, and that
Yes.
person then says, "Hey, yeah, no, we'd love to have you in. In fact, we have an appointment next Wednesday." Okay, great. Well, then the patient realizes, "Oh, next Wednesday, my car's being worked on. I can't make it. Um, you know what? I'll call back. No, I can't. I lost my phone." And then they don't call you back. And you go, well, what a rude person. They never called us back. We don't want jerks, like this. And and then it's lost. It's a lost opportunity. Or you get them to the door, but they were afraid to open the door because, like they were like, oh, I'm too scared to go in. It's been 15 years. So there's so many opportunities from
Mhm.
getting their butt in the chair. Then even when they get their butt in the chair to diagnosing correctly and then getting them to say yes to treatment, and then the all important paying for their treatment. So, stuff like setting up finances. There's this whole litany of start to finish thinking through the patient experience, that where the ball could get dropped. Keep going.
Dropping the ball is exactly the point of doing this audit, is really paying attention to what happens to that patient, because marketing does not stop just because they schedule. So looking at the quality of it from every single touch point is really important. In my coaching group, through Coach Builder and Business Made Simple, one of the things that I hear often in the community itself is the amount of times that businesses drop the ball. So a client is basically banging down their door saying, I would love to work with you. I would love to hire you. And the person says, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they don't end up getting back to them for whatever reason. And it's a lost opportunity. Take the landscaper, for example. My husband and I want to landscape our yard. We went out and we got bids to landscape our yard. Guess who followed up with us?
The person who got the contract.
None of them.
Oh,
None
no.
of them. It was crazy. Now, this was like a couple of years ago now. And maybe they were busy. I don't know. One person did get back to us with an initial, and we were like, yes. And I wanted like some pavers. And so I asked my husband, I said, go back to him and tell him that you want a different style of paver. And then that dropped off entirely too. So it was just amazing to me, and was a very like visual, hands-on element. Think of like an overgrown garden. The garden is there. The canvas is there. It can be beautiful, but you have to pay attention to it. So you're right. So the website experience, how easy is it to schedule? How easy is it to find? I am amazed at how many websites I go to. I can't find what city they're even in.
Yeah.
A lot. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What?" And I look at a lot of dentist websites too. So I'm like, where is this doctor even?
But it's not just dentists. You're right. Like,
Not just
sometimes I'll be looking for a company and I'm like, where are they based out of? And you go to contact us, right? And then it's like, yeah, like, here, send us a message and we'll get back. I'm like, no, I want to contact you. Where is your place even? Like go into Google Maps and so here's
mystery shopping is one of the best things I think you can do for your marketing, for the consumer experience. And then on your side, Chad, and my side. So, okay, we've got this mystery of marketing isn't working. Why is it not working? And really, it does come down to the handoffs and looking at the handoffs. So what quality of lead are you getting in the door? So looking at those names. And then those that who schedule, I would take a look and see, are they fitting your demographic? Meaning, are they needing the services that you're really passionate about providing? And make sure that that your marketing is pulling the right type of leads for your practice. So
sure.
paying attention to that is really good.
But the
Ma-
blame fell on us. Like specifically for us, it was
what you found out was the blame
for
fell on
sure.
you.
For sure. Like that it was like, wow, we could really here's what a statistic that as just math. I mean, so 168 hours in a week, and we work 4 7-hour days, let's even just say 8, but if we're answering the phone about 7 hours or 8, that's 16% of the week that we are answering the phone. So, yeah, so
I
what
love it when you do your engineering brain. I love it when you start to break this all out into formulas. I love how your brain works. Keep
Well,
going.
think about the 83% of the time otherwise, so we're not answering the phone 83% of the day. Now, how many people are calling it at midnight? Fair point. I mean,
Right.
but so that's just a uniform equation. But nonetheless, like, we are really only available 16% of the week, or any given day, to answer the phone. And so that first off means that the patients are getting filtered by our closure,
Yeah.
while we're enjoying the weekend. And naturally so. I don't think that's wrong that we're enjoying the weekend, but how are we making sure that we're following up with these people? And it's interesting when you go to call logs, seeing how you can track, the phone number if you have the right software, and you can see that these people are calling 5 times. They want you.
5
Th
times?
Sure, so they call Thursday after dinner, 6
Yeah.
PM, okay? Then they call Friday morning, as 8 AM. Then they call, Friday afternoon. Now, you've been closed You think they should be able to figure this out. They probably could figure this out, but they don't know. And so now they've called 3
Well,
times.
they call when it's convenient for them to because
Correct.
they're likely working. I've never understood this in our culture, by the way, just throwing that out there. If I'm working a 9 to 5, the majority of people are working 9 to 5, and all the businesses are open 9 to 5. It really, I mean, it gives you what? Your little tiny break in between your day, and let's face it, I think collectively in the United States especially, everyone's pretty much overworked. I really don't think I've ever heard a professional, not yet, say, "My life is just chill, like, I kinda do what I want,"
I need
unless
more
you're
work.
independently wealthy.
Right. Right.
No, everyone's hustling. So, yeah, of course, they're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh," and I bet it's like this too. I have to make that appointment. I've gotta call. I hope they're still open, right?
Yep.
That's how you get those late afternoon calls.
Yep.
Oh, man.
I even was dropping off some flyers for our implant, uh, uh, open house that we're doing, and I stopped by one business a couple blocks away, and, there were no cars in it. I was like, "Oh, crud." So I pull up, I look on the window, it said, "Open until 3:30," and I was just like, "Oh, man." It was like 4 o'clock, and I was like, "Man, they're open until 3:30." Awesome for them, but I was just like, I missed my opportunity because they were closed mid-afternoon. I was just like, "That's awesome for them," but holy moly.
Yeah, I jotted
3:30.
I jotted this down because really I wanna, listeners, I wanna give you something that you can go back and you can look at your own practice or business and kinda dive into it. So there when you are marketing, there are multiple elements to your marketing. There is the message and the visual that goes on all of your efforts on your website, on your billboards, on your direct mailers, on your radio ads, and all of that. That could be a problem. Your messaging could be off. Here's a hint. If you're talking about how wonderful you are, doctor, and how many advanced degrees you have, you might be putting yourself in the hero seat, and that is a mistake. Go check out the interview with Dr. JJ Peterson a few episodes back, and you can learn all about that. It could be your messaging might be off. It could be, to Chad's testament, a dropped ball. You might actually be getting leads with your digital advertising, with all of your different marketing elements. Heck, your billboard or your no, your ad in the church bulletin might be smashing it, but it does nothing if the ball gets dropped once that phone call is made.
Well, yeah,
Or
because after church, on the church bulletin, after church, they're calling on Sunday afternoon and they don't get an answer. Now, they should be able to figure that out, but they just saw it, they called, and they can't get a hold of you.
so what's cool about that though here so here's another cool thing about marketing and knowing your audience. There are mega churches around, right? So I was at a church that had like 4,500 people in it. If you are big in a community, it doesn't have to be religious based, any base. If you are in a community, you meet them where they're at. So think about that carefully. While for Chad, it might not make sense to have a phone answering system or somebody open on Sunday, it sure as heck might if you are deeply embedded in a large community that is going to likely be calling at that time. So pay attention and listen to what your audience is doing. And Chad, you just married it with the most exciting data. So Chad going through and saying, okay, here's when my callers are calling most, like, and here's when we're not answering those calls. He may have discovered something really interesting, and one fix might end up solving that problem. So look at your intersections carefully. And this is probably the part that will make you groan. And I get it. I've done it myself. It does take time. It's worth the investment. Or you can just keep throwing money every month at marketing and kind of hoping that it works. But you should,
And being mad it's not.
right, and being mad that it's not. Before you go and blame, "My website sucks, my digital advertising sucks, my whatever sucks," try to do a really big diagnostic on it first to see where the actual problem could exist. And I'll tell you, one thing where I've heard doctors say that their marketing still doesn't work, um, comes around the time of follow-up. So they've actually had an appointment, but that lifetime patient value is low because they came in and then they never came back again. Well, what I discovered in like one of my own journeys is how well a practice, medical, dental, any health modality, how well they follow up with you post appointment makes a huge difference. And especially in dentistry, because you have treatment planning, medical, you have treatment planning. You're either going to say yes to that, you're going to delay it, or you're going to say no. And so life gets lifey. And Chad and I know this so well. And I know you listening to this, you know this so well. Life gets lifey. You get in the car, you said you're going to think about it. And then, work calls, your family calls, your kid calls, life gets in the way, and then you forget to schedule it. If you don't make a touch, and that is a marketing touch point. If you don't follow up, you could end up losing that opportunity. So, just like a garden, you're going to get out of it what you put into it, and how big that tomato grows is really up to you. And I think marketing plays a really important part when we pay attention and value each element of it.
If you have software, or some ability of tracking and you're able, doctor, to do what I did, I followed up with people via text and I would see the tracking phone number. I would write this message and then cut and paste it so I didn't have to retype it every time. I actually saved it in my phone so I could, hit this again.
Smart.
Yes, every week is I'll write and say, "Hey, this is Dr. Chad from Veranda Dentistry. I was auditing my phone call logs and saw that you called. I wanted to make sure that I was following up with you, that you were satisfied with how we interacted with you. If you have any questions or want to, schedule an appointment, let me know. This is my personal cell phone number," or however you wanted to finish that. Let me know by calling whatever. But
I
I
can hear the doctor groans right now. I feel I can hear it.
But
But
here's the deal. Here's the deal. On my phone, I mean, just so you know, you might have a different area. It's how my area works. And people don't bother me. Like, so if you're just like, if I give my phone number out to 1,000 people are going to bother me. No, they won't. This isn't the 90s that people are excited to call your cellular number. Okay. So no, they won't. They're busy. They have things to do. You're not actually that important. So give them your number and if you want to make appointments, if you're full, maybe this episode isn't for you. Keep spending money how you want. But if you wish you had more appointments, if you wish that your customer care was taken to the next level, model that as a leader by sending a message, and you can hide it in a hidden text message app. They have those. So I'm not saying you have to do it the way that I'm doing it, but reaching out to them, you will get more re-engagement, I think is the word for it. And you'll be amazed that if you're like, man, this next week is kind of empty, we'll re-engage with the people who tried calling you the last week or two, and you will get it full.
I think making it, as a consumer, it wouldn't matter to me if it was my doctor texting me personally, which I would be shocked at if that happened. And yes, I would
Correct.
feel very special. If the office manager reached out to me, I would also feel special. And here's why. The way that you just described the message, it felt more personal and it put yourself in the guide role and it made them the hero. It seemed very genuine. It
Yes.
it didn't feel to me like, "Hey, schedule you we got openings and just go ahead and schedule." It was actually seemed very, caring, and so I think how you message it is also a big deal, but doctor, if you're listening and you're like, "I just don't have the time for that," or "I don't wanna make the investment," or "I'm too introverted," or whatever it may be, I think your team could do it too, in a HIPAA compliant way, obviously, so check out the apps that are appropriate. I'm not technical on that piece of it, but I do know that that would be enormously valuable, and one of the things that I've talked about many times, but should be inserted here, is I received through my Patient Hub app at the medical clinic that I go to well wishes on a trip that I was taking. That was it. There was no, "Hey, schedule your follow-up," or anything like that. It was just, "Hey, I hope you have a good time on your trip," and that changed the world for me. I felt seen, I felt heard, and had nothing to do with their care, but I will always go to them because I felt seen. So I love that you're doing this, and I love so much, Chad, that you were willing to take a hard look and keep your biases down and your blind, like your little, what do they call the little blind spotters? The
Right.
little, what are they called on horses? They put them on the sides of their face. What are those called?
Uh, if I were quicker, I was going to come up with some like stupid name, and you're going to be like, "No, it wasn't," and then I was going to be like, "No, I was just kidding."
I just like that you were able to take a very impartial look at it. And I think
It was tough because I did have emotion to it. So, like, I don't want people to think, "Wow, I wish I could be so emotionally unattached and just rationally look." No, 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 no. Kate can attest to this. I was I was mad. Like, she was probably just like, "Oh, shoot, like, he's mad,"
yeah.
and, like, but I was like, if I don't go through, like, that's not me normally, but I was like, I think I have to go through this emotion and, like, figure, like, because it's just like, I don't know if you've ever been a parent coming home and it's like, what's this house a mess like? Why is this house a mess? And your caveman brain turns on, and then then you settle down and go, oh yeah, I made this mess. It wasn't my kids, it was me. Oops. So
Accountability, a willingness to look in all, under all the covers, under all the beds, look under the, on all the areas. I think
that's right.
that will be, yeah, it'll be worth it. Well, thank you, Chad. Thanks for jumping on.
Thank
Listeners,
you.
get excited for part 2 of this because we are interviewing Sarah Hansen, who is a master at this, and she brings a lot of energy to the conversation and a lot of excitement. So we are going to talk about marketing from the inside out with Sarah, and she's going to tell us some of the results that she's been getting, which are incredible. So
Wow.
tune in for that. Look to that next week.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Everyday Practices Podcast. It would mean the world if you can help spread the word by sharing this episode with a fellow dentist and leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Do you have an extraordinary story you'd like to share or feedback on how we can make this podcast even more awesome? Drop us an email at podcast@productivedentist.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts from Productive Dentist Academy at productivedentist.com/podcasts. See you next week.